Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 9 of my webcast, Fall to Rise. My name is James Brown. Tonight's episode is an interesting one that I've been waiting to do for quite a while. Tonight's episode is about nutrition and health. My guest tonight is someone that I have known since I was 19 years old. Sorry, since I was 19 years old. He is nutritionist Kyle Toms. Kyle, how are you?
Hey, thank you, James Brown, hardest working man on Facebook.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining in. Would just really like to start by saying that nutrition has always been a passion of mine for my adulthood. It wasn't always, I didn't start out that way like most of us. I started out on all kinds of Frosted Flake cereals and things like that. And interesting thing happened to me in the seventh grade. Up until the seventh grade, I was kind of like this featured guest at every family function because I was this little kid who could eat 3 helpings of food. And the third plate was just as big and just as high as the first plate, if not higher. And in the seventh grade, I went for one of my physicals, and the doctor said it's time to put you on a diet, which was shocking to me. I knew I was husky, what they call a little rotund or pudgy, and I did get teased a little bit about my thighs in grade school and in middle school, but I didn't think I was at the point of what I considered folks to be what we now call obese. But the doctor saw where I was heading, and so he put me on a diet. And that day, my mom, we were driving home. She said, "I'm taking this very seriously." And I said, "Okay." She dropped me off at the house. She went out. She came back, and she came back with Kentucky Fried Chicken.
That
Which
KFC
was
tastes good.
yeah, which was one of my favorites at the time.
Hmm.
And I couldn't wait to get into it. And she started serving the family. She broke out these scales,
Hmm.
and she also had some brisket and some green beans, and she started weighing my food, and she handed me the plate, and I was like, "What is this?" And she said, this is your dinner. Your dinner is different than our dinner."
Hmm.
And yeah, I said, "Ma, stop playing." I'm laughing. And then she went on serving everybody else, and it hit me that this was going to be the new norm for me.
Okay.
Um, so, like any 13-year-old, I made a pact with myself that I would wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning in the middle of the night, and I would sneak downstairs and go in the fridge, get the bucket of chicken, get my favorite parts, and I was going to have my fried chicken.
Hmm.
And my mental alarm went off in the middle of the night. I got up, it was dark. I crept downstairs. I opened up the refrigerator. I had a plate. I got the bucket.
Hmm.
And then I had an epiphany that I'll always be doing this. I'll always be sneaking food, and I'll always be in a challenge with my weight. I
Hmm.
don't know where that came from, but I can clearly remember it like it was yesterday. I didn't eat the chicken. I put it all back in the bucket, put the bucket back in the fridge. I went upstairs. I went to bed. When I woke up the next morning, I started looking at the Wild World of Sports, which was on back then. I might be dating myself a little bit, but I started listening to whatever athletes were doing in prep. I started listening to my heroes, Sugar Ray Leonard, what they would talk about when they were training. I started duplicating as much of this as I could. And then my mom read in a magazine article something about fiber and how we don't get enough in America. So she brought in this very nasty cereal called the Cracklin brand. And my brothers, we all revolted.
Hmm.
And then I said, well, this is what I got to get used to. And one morning, because my mental gears had shifted, I said, okay, I'm just going to eat Cracklin brand. If that's going to help me get to where I need to be in terms of being fit.
Okay.
And I got so intrigued with all kinds of foods that I normally ate and how I was kind of shifting my mental capacity toward what's actually going to be best for me. One of my favorite snacks was Tasty Cakes Crimpets. And just for those, I jog your memory, it's kind of shaped like a little figure eight, and it's got a thin layer of icing on it, and it's wrapped in wax paper, and it's two of them. And it was such a treat for me. Even just unwrapping the wax paper was part of the whole process for me enjoying this dessert.
Mhm.
My mom, because of independence, had me cooking and ironing and washing clothes at age 9, so that I would learn that independence. So at 9, I could cook. Instead of spending my allowance on these tasty cakes, it dawned on me, I know how to bake. Let me just find out what goes into a tasty cake and make my version of it and save that money. So the next time I went to the store, I got the tasty cake, I flipped it over on the bottom. I looked at the ingredients and I saw 45 ingredients. Now, baking from scratch with my mom and with my grandmother, I know that if we're gonna make a cake right now, all of us in this meeting, we're gonna need maybe 5, 7 ingredients tops, right? Milk,
Yes.
sugar, wheat, eggs, a few other things, maybe some cinnamon or what have you, but it certainly isn't gonna be 45.
Yeah.
And out of the familiar things that we eat, of the sugars and the eggs and the milk and the wheat, flour, and so on and so forth, we're not going to have 4, 5, 6 syllable words that we can't pronounce in our food ingredients.
Yeah.
Okay. One of them is isodicarbonate. Okay. And let me just explain really quickly what that is, because we've all had it.
Okay.
Every time you've had any kind of fast food, bun, Wendy's, McDonald's, Burger King, Sonic, anytime you've had Jersey Mike's, anytime you've had any wheat bread that was very soft, Red Lobster biscuits, Popeye's biscuits, it has this ingredient in it. And what it does is it makes things very soft. And that's important because we're connected to comfort foods, not just once it's in our system, but actually how it feels when we touch it, the texture of it in our mouths. So butter on a nice hot bun that's soft, and you can pull it apart and dip it if you want to, or eat it with something, that triggers to us comfort food. This isodibicarbonate, which makes the bread soft, is also in yoga mats because it makes yoga mats soft.
Yeah.
This is just one example that I want to talk about of why we end up having health issues later on, because our filter, which is our liver, and that system that's also helped by the pancreas, tries to filter all of those things out of our system that are foreign and toxic. We don't realize it. If I offered anyone in this group chat a tablespoon of isodibicarbonate, you wouldn't take it, right? I couldn't force it down your throat. But if I mix it in with some sugar and some icing and color the sprinkles with a light form of ink that we call dye, so whenever we're putting sprinkles on our ice cream, food coloring is nothing but a light version of dye. How do we know this? If you look on any of your cereals, if you look on any of your desserts, and you'll see yellow number 6, red number 3, those are the same colors that you can get in to dye shirt materials, clothes materials. It's a little diluted because it's in your food. The problem that we have with our food system is that it continues to keep us in a state of getting sicker. And that's because of profit. So once we start understanding that there's an ulterior motive, which is to addict us to certain foods and make other corporations rich by doing it, we do a disservice to ourselves, and it's not anyone's fault. It's not explained to us. So I want to explain to folks, just so you can have the seed, to start thinking about how you eat and how you consume your foods going forward. Most fast food establishments have certain colors in them: red, yellow, green. It's been scientifically documented that these colors trigger our appetite to turn on. So now I want you to think about the color of McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, Sonic's, KFC. You'll have these colors in that register to us that we want to eat. Then it's coupled by what they're putting into those products. They're putting in products that actually make us addicted to salt primarily and sugar.
So that's kind
Yeah.
of why a lot of people have a hard time turning away from sugar. That's why people have kind of like an addiction to candy, cakes, pies. So
JB,
saying, yes.
yeah, you're exactly right. You're exactly right, and you're exactly on point. And the reason that is because our bodies do need these minerals. We need glucose. We can't operate without it. It's our fuel. We need sodium. It regulates our body fluids so we don't overheat or so that we don't get too cool and pass out. If you're ever in the hospital and you're incapacitated and they put you on an IV drip, what's in that drip is glucose, liquid sugar, sodium, which is salt, water, which of course we need, we're 75% water, and a few other vitamins, B12s to give you a little energy, B6. So when we have a potato chip that's salty, it triggers in our mind, oh, we need that in our system. When we have that cake with icing or a honey bun and it's super sweet, it triggers, oh yes, we need that. What we end up doing is overdosing on what we need. And then we release endorphins when we're eating these comfort foods and we feel good at the moment, but we crash later. And we get, you can have a very heavy meal and you'll feel very heavy and you'll want to go to sleep because your pancreas is trying to pump in insulin to level out your sugar levels. And that crash and that pressure makes us then want to relax, and sometimes we doze off and fall asleep. But the body is still working to try to regulate what's going on in our system because the body's recognizing sugar's coming into our system. Now, remember, we said sugar is energy. So our body genomes are not much different than they were eons ago when we were hunters and gatherers. So if we were hunters and gatherers and we were either going to go into battle or a famine was coming, or we were going to take a great migration, we would stock up on food and have heavy meals because you need it for the journey or for the battle. So when we take in high caloric foods and we don't go into battle and we're not migrating from here to New York on foot, that might take 2 weeks. The body says, oh, this is energy. We are not using it now. We must need it later. So let's store it. And it puts it in suitcases called our fatty cells. And our fatty cells are like balloons. So the more unused sugar, quote unquote, energy that comes into the fatty cell, it expands like a balloon. And then it duplicates and so on and so forth. So you keep getting these fatty cells. We all start out with about roughly the same amount of, billions of fatty cells. But what happens is they grow. And that's why it's called out of shape. We become outside of our shape. We each have a frame that is we have an ideal weight for that frame, something that's optimal. And as we eat these comfort foods, we then become outside of our shape. And getting in shape means we get fit and we get inside of the shape that our skeletal and muscular structure is actually made to carry. So we get away from that. And we get away from that really not knowing how the process happens. So that's what I want to just like plant the seed so people can understand, how do we get to 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 pounds in a matter of a couple of years heavier when we don't think that we're eating cakes all day, every day, because we're not. But we're also drinking soda or soft drinks that can have anywhere from 10 to 12 teaspoons of sugar in them.
Most of them have more than that. A can of Pepsi has about 45 or 50.
They're off the charts, right?
Yeah.
And the diet sodas are even worse because they have cancer-causing agents in them like saccharin and these synthetic sweeteners that don't register a calorie on the table, but once they mix with our system, because it's so sweet, our system is still fooled. And that's why you see a lot of people who are drinking Diet Cokes or Diet Pepsi or Diet Sprite, and they're still very big. And every time you're out with them or something, they'll always ask for that Diet Sprite or that Diet Soda because they're trying to think they're doing something to cut the calories. But they're really not, because once the taste buds taste the sweetness, that reminds them of white refined sugar, the body then acts just like that. So these are some of the things that are really important for us to consider, especially if we're trying to have optimal weight and optimal health and optimal wellness. Why is this important? Because today we're in the age of COVID.
I was actually going to
And
jump to that next.
oh, okay. I'm
Yeah,
right there with
I
you.
was actually going to jump to that because with the whole COVID thing, that's one of the things no one's talking about. Everyone's talking about washing your hands, wearing your mask, which is very important, but no one's talking about building up your immune system. A lot of us have compromised immune systems because of our diets, our lifestyles, weight gain, drinking alcohol, consuming dairy, which causes mucus. COVID-19 loves mucus. So, you know, do you think that diet can help you to protect yourself from COVID, or at least help your body to fight COVID?
So it absolutely can, because one, your cellular structure is ready for the battle. And two, now everyone hear me clearly, I'm not saying that children are immune, but they bounce back better. They bounce back better because their systems are newer, because they're younger. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't boost our systems to be geared for the battle of not only COVID. We commune regularly with about 400 different viruses floating around all the time. So when you get a virus and you're sick for the day, you're like, I'm leaving work early, I don't feel good, I have a fever, temperature, my stomach is hurting, and you go home for the day, you've had, and the next day you feel great, you had an 8-hour virus. That's a certain type of virus. When you're sick for the entire weekend, you have a 48-hour virus. And we're in competition with all of these all the time. When your system is geared up for it and you're boosting your immune system, to your point, JB, you either can stave it off or you come through the process of healing quicker.
Okay.
And that's very, very important.
Now, are there certain things that we should put into our bodies, or things that we should be consuming to help our bodies fight this virus and other viruses off a little bit faster?
Yes, so this is being recorded, so people may also want to check back with you on some information. But
Sure.
there are certain things that we can absolutely do. As the fall approaches, you should have in your cabinet oil of oregano. I'm telling you right now, it tastes like gasoline, but you can almost instantaneously feel it heal you if you have a sore throat, or if you're feeling ill, you feel that flu coming on, or you're not feeling quite like yourself.
Okay.
You want to eat with fresh basil. Oregano and basil, they're antiviral. There's a virus going around.
Okay.
So those are some of the things that you should be eating and cooking with. Live rosemary is another antiviral herb. Now you can put this in your salad, you can put this in any of your foods, you can put this if you're eating fish or if you're vegetarian, if you mix it with hummus. These are all things that complement those foods that in turn boost your immune system. Elderberry, which you can get online or you can get at the vitamin shop as fall approaches. Elderberry is antiviral. That's what you want to have. Coconut oil, antiviral. You want to, there's a coconut oil called MCT, which stands for medium chain triglyceride. And it has a very short information of its fat, which is why it's one of the good fats, which is what you need to protect your cells so that, again, you can combat what we're about to gear up for. Avocados, also good, healthy fats. That's the protection you want around your cells. And you want to eat this, you know, like every day I'm consuming this food, or every other day, a few times a week at least. The more you get it into your system, the better it is. One more thing that's very important I want to say, among other things. Moringa, Moringa. It's a plant. You can get it as a powder. You can get it in, again, vitamin shop. You can get it online. It's full of iron. Iron helps conduct the electrical current, which we need because we are all electrical. We want to keep that electric current high to combat illness.
Now, what about sea moss? I've been seeing that online everywhere. Everyone's been saying, "Oh, if you want to fight COVID, get yourself some sea moss." What's your view on sea moss?
Absolutely. And we've had the conversation, JB, about the
Yes.
Blueberry Cafe,
Yes.
right? And located in Newark. And they have it, but you can also get this online as well.
Okay.
As the season approaches, you definitely want to stock up on some sea moss, maudie, sorrel. All of these Caribbean plants are loaded with iron and a high electric current.
Okay.
The higher your electric current, the better it is for us, with the foods, with regard to the foods we consume.
Now, I've read that sea moss has, I believe, 95 of the minerals that your body needs every day.
Well, there are a few things. Also, not only that, but pink Himalayan sea salt
Okay.
also has 83 minerals in it. Why is that different than your regular white table salt? Salt is not pure white. Salt comes off white, grayish, and pink. What happens is you take sea salt and they do a process called breening and give it a chlorophyll bath, and that heightens the potency of the table salt, and at the same time it strips out all of its minerals. So when you get the white salt, if you take, for instance, Morton's, you see the little girl on the label with the umbrella and it says with iodine. That's
Yes.
because everything's been stripped. They put the iodine in, but that's one, you're still missing about 82 other minerals.
Oh,
Copper,
wow.
zinc, selenium, all of that is in pink Himalayan salt. So
Okay.
that's one of the best salts you want to use when you're using salt, because again, we're not so much vitamin deficient as a society as we are mineral deficient. And it's getting these minerals of what we're talking about, these plants and these supplements that we just alluded to. Those are some of the things that give us the minerals. Now you're getting toward optimal health when you're balancing with your minerals.
Now, in terms of the foods that we should be eating to protect ourselves from COVID and other viruses, are there any foods or beverages that we should not be consuming to protect our system?
So yeah, so we briefly touched on sodas.
Yes.
Okay. And I know a lot of people like sodas. And if you ever feel like if you want to treat yourself, or if you're going through the weaning process and you feel like you just must have a soda on the weekend, or I know the weather is nice, as a substitute or an alternative, get yourself frozen concentrate, grape or orange, some seltzer water, mix it. You have a natural grape soda or a natural orange soda.
Oh, wow.
Okay, without all the other additives in it. That's going to actually do your body harm. Another thing I would say, especially as the season approaches, the fall season approaches, which will bring the influenza along with corona, as we're hearing, you definitely want to stay back or stay away from or cut down on dairy. And James, we've talked about that.
Indeed, we have.
Yeah, many conversations on that, because as you said earlier, it's a mucus byproduct. Mucus collects with the dairy, and it's a breeding ground for ailments to come your way. So a lot of people
not just COVID, different ailments. Mucus is a breeding ground for different ailments.
Sure. Well, when you think about the late fall going into the winter months, and you think about sore throats, strep throats, heavy phlegm buildup in your throat, congestion, sinus issues, right? All of that is from an environment heavy in mucus. And mucus is a perfect breeding ground for all types of sickness and ailments. And I want to emphasize that, and ailments. So if you have issues with sore ankles, knee joints, shoulder joint, you have to examine how much sugar and or dairy is in your system and in your daily dietary intake.
So wait a minute. Dairy can affect your joints?
Absolutely. So I know that we're taught, got milk does the body good. And I heard this artist one time, Akon, he said something very brilliant. He said, in terms of America being number one, the number one thing that we're number one at is marketing. And that resonated with me. It resonated with me. Milk does a body good. Got your milk mustache, got milk. All of that is simply marketing. And I'll tell you a quick story of how it is marketing. When the settlers came here, they hunted the buffalo, which was plentiful all through the land, all through the nation. They hunted them down almost to extinction. A lot of people know this, that buffaloes were nearly extinct. And as they were nearly extinct, they saw that cows were still here, almost like a smaller version of a bison buffalo. And they decided to use the milk that was feeding the farm animals on people. And they started supplementing it. And then farmers started promoting it. And then corporations started promoting it with the milkman all the way to the today's supermarket with the milk in the stores. If we think about the concept of dairy, no other species on earth drinks milk voluntarily from another animal except us. Now you might give your cat or your dog some milk and but it won't ask for it. It will milk from its mother when it's a pup. It will milk from its mother when it's a kitten. And the same thing could be said about every animal, rhinoceros, elephant, giraffe, I don't care what it is, including humans. Isn't it interesting that in the scheme of marketing, every animal from their infancy, when they pass infancy into adolescence, they're no longer milking. You never see an adolescent cow go toward the mama cow for milk. You'll never see the full adult bull go for milk from the cow. Why do we? We don't even go to our mothers, which is our species.
Yeah.
We don't even go to our mothers for milk after a year.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been marketed with ice creams. And like I said, all you gotta do is pour sugar on it. I mean, we'll probably eat, almost anything with some sugar or salt on it.
Yeah.
Because we're geared from the time we're kids. We're rewarded. When you go to the amusement park, you're eating cotton candy, which is nothing but concentrated sugar with food coloring, which again, like we said, is light colored dye. Now, there was an interesting documentary that was done. There's a documentary called The Weight of a Nation. In this particular segment, they met with parents and said, hey, we want your children to be involved in this experiment. And all we really want to do is just watch them grow into adulthood and just see their medical records as they're progressing. And they started marking the entire grade within the school system. They're following these kids. And unfortunately, some kid was like 17, got into an auto accident and passed away. So they did the autopsy. This was actually on camera. And they took the artery. And they took the 17-year-old's artery and just pushed it like you would a toothpaste. And all this plaque came out like toothpaste. And what they were able to detect is as they looked at other kids, if there was an ailment, they can see the beginnings of cholesterol starting as young as 9 years old. Wow. So it's slowly building up in your body. What corporations have figured out is not to kill us quickly, but to make us live with ailments until we can't live with them any longer. And then someone else is coming up to have a bad, healthy lifestyle, the standard American diet, which my acronym is SAD for that. Mm-hmm. And we're tied into foods that addict us. We're bombarded with commercials that show us these great looking soft hamburger buns, but don't tell us that there's yoga mat material in it. I do want to say that Panera Bread took the iodide bicarbonate out of their breads about 2 years ago, and Subway took it out of their food, out of their buns about 5 years ago. Those are the only ones who were, they were approached by various food advocates. And they actually produced the documents to show that they no longer use that ingredient in their breads. They approached everybody. Like I said, from Wendy's to Burger King to McDonald's to White Castles, you name it. um, KFC, Red Lobster, Olive Garden, everybody who has soft bread. Now, if you think, or no, let me share this story with you. When I was young, I told you my grandmother and my mother taught me how to cook. My grandmother would bake the bread in a pan. And when she baked the bread and the bread came out, he had to use a serrated knife, a serrated edge knife to cut through the bread because it was more natural and it's made to be a roughage to help push things through your system. See, when we don't get things pushed through our system, it ends up getting backed up. Now, let me just show you a little experiment. So here's a little, this is hardly ever in my house. It's only whenever I'm doing a seminar. This is white. And just show this up so everybody can see. It's just half a bun from like a hoagie. Okay. This is bread. I'm just going to use a little bit of water to simulate saliva. We're going to chew it up. We're at Red Lobster. We're at the Olive Garden. We're out having a good time. And as we're chewing our food and it's getting moist, we swallow it and we're having a good time. Now here's just a little, let me see if you can see this. Okay. Can you see how it's sticking? This is just bread. This is moist bread from water, which we're using as saliva here. Now it's sticking on this, and you could see it's very hard to come off. Can you see me shaking that, JB?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, it's not coming off. I did this little experiment at Rutgers. I do it all the time. I put it on the whiteboard or on the wall when I'm doing it. And I was at Rutgers on a weekend. It was a Saturday. I did a health wellness seminar. And everybody marveled at it. It stayed the whole 2.5 hours of the seminar. Wow. And that was on a Saturday. Monday, I got a call. And they said, oh, Mr. Toms, you know, we really want to thank you for your presentation. We really got so much out of it. We're just going to ask that you clean up after yourself next time, because when we came to work Monday, the bread was still stuck to the whiteboard.
And that's what it's doing to our bodies.
We laughed about it, but I said, you know what? I'm going to tell that story all the time. It stayed on the board for over 48 hours. That's what's going on in our system. So when we have just another little prop here, JB, let me know if this comes across clearly. This represents an artery.
Okay.
Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. And then, can you see where this opening is compromised?
It looks like plaque or something.
Exactly. That's what's going on. That's what's building up from the food sources that we have. When you have little particles of this wheat that is now in our system, it's collecting other food because it's stuck to our insides. And once food stays too long, it begins to rot. And once it begins to rot, you have these gaseous explosions inside of us. So when you're feeling bloated, it's just gas exploding and expanding your large intestine. Oh, wow. Largely due to food. Largely, not all the time. Because we have different things, you know, that women go through or what have you. But if it's a normal time in your life and you're feeling like you have a lot of gas, you're bloated, well, you have to think about what you've been eating. And that comes from carbohydrates, which is a grain, which is wheat, which has been GMO'd over the years. And like I said, additives, like isodibicarbonate in it, makes for a sticky substance. Gluten is the protein that's in wheat.
Okay.
It's derived from the word glue, right? It's very sticky, as we saw right here. It's still there, right? It's not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. So this is why folks have decided to go gluten-free in these times. And I'm one of them. I injured my back maybe about three, five years ago. And I injured my back and I couldn't do any exercising. And I like to exercise. I like to work out. I like to play basketball, football, sparring, boxing, tennis, you name it. I like to do it. I couldn't even do a push-up. And I noticed that I was picking up a little bit of weight. And I'm like, how am I putting up this weight? Like, I eat clean. And then it dawned on me, I had to self-talk and say, after a while, a calorie is a calorie is a calorie. And if you're just sitting on it, it's going to accumulate. So I said, I can't do any exercise right now. So let me just try to stop wheat. Let me stop gluten. Stop all pastas, rice, all of that.
You're killing me right now.
The weight, I'm not killing you, I'm helping you live. The weight started falling off of me just by cutting out grain cereals, anything with wheat. I always tell folks, when you are purchasing any of your food, don't just go by the front of the box or the can or the jar. That's the commercial. Fat-free, sugar-free, salt-free. Turn it to the side or the back and read the ingredients on the label. That will tell you the real truth. There's an American favorite, Oreo cookies. And if you look in the ingredients of Oreo cookies, first of all, chocolate is the very last ingredient, which means that's the least of what's in there. Everything else is colorings and compromised cocoa flavoring that's been GMO'd and has additives on it to make it taste more like chocolate, because there's very little chocolate in a chocolate in an Oreo cookie. You'll see something called alkali. Alkali is an ingredient that you can also find in a lot of laundry detergents. So these are the things that we're consuming. And we're in the generation now that is not expected to outlive its parents' generation. So that's real key. Up until then, every generation is getting a little bit older, you know, like over 200, 250 years ago, 300 years ago, you know, if you made it to 50, you were old, you know, 45-year-old, you know, like you were in the prime of your life. That's why a lot of people married young, because they were only living to 45, 50, so on and so forth. Every generation, we made advances and we're living longer, except this one, we're compromised. We're compromised because now, if you look in my kids' classroom, half the class, 3/4 of the class is overweight. And if I go to career day or something and I see them with their lunches, I see all kinds of chips and all kinds of cakes and cookies, and you're eating it every day. They're not going to feel it so much now because, again, their bodies are young. Every part of their body, including their arteries, is still growing. But once they reach adulthood, somewhere between 18 to 22, and your body has reached its full capacity of growth, things are going to catch up rapidly. So now we see people when it's like, oh my goodness, I'm over the hill. Oh, I'm 25, I'm over the hill. Or my 30th birthday, I don't feel like I used to. 35, nobody wants to be 40, they want to stay 30 something. They're at 3 and 4, 39 birthdays. And it's not about the age as you advance. Like I said, right now, my 14-year-old son can't beat me. And well, he just beat me this year in basketball. I take that back. Now, I used to always be able to say he can't beat me. He beat me this year one time, but I compete. I competed with him. It's no cakewalk, no pun intended. I spar with boxing, tennis with my wife. I'm active. And as long as you tell the body you have a demand on it, it will do that. When you tell the body, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to be behind the laptop, I'm going to be behind the computer, I'm not doing anything, your body's going to say, we don't need to keep these muscles toned, we're not using them. We don't need to keep this frame, we're taking in more calories, we're going to expand. Maybe we'll use some of this energy later, because these high calories is telling the body, we're either migrating or we're going to go into battle or there's going to be a famine. They don't know we're in the 21st century. The genomes don't know that. So they're operating like from when we were hunters and gatherers. And it's very important that people just begin to understand some of the science behind what's in foods and how foods react in us. When you're eating live foods, when you're eating more vegetables, which forget that old diagram we used to see, kind of, you know, quadrant, 4 corners of a little bit of dairy and carbohydrate and protein, and half your plate needs to be vegetation. At least half your plate, because you are alive, vegetables are alive, you need those live enzymes in your living self. Okay, those, and then, like I said, the important fats that you get from that you get from seeds, and you get from nuts, walnuts, Brazil nuts, your avocados. These are all your good fats. Coconut oil, the flesh of coconut. There's even coconut ice cream now. That's what we have in our family. When we want to have a snack, there's coconut ice cream. And in terms of bread, I know it's tough. And I know in terms of wheat and the gluten we're talking about, but I tell you, it's compromising us, folks. And then coming into the fall and coming into the winter season, we're going to be battling two things at least, the regular flu and corona. Think about how to gear up your body. I say, yes, wear your mask. Absolutely. Yes, wash your hands, because the soap breaks down the proteins of the virus, because the soaps have fats in it, and the fats break it down. Another good reason to have good fats in your system to help those cellular structures, because if you ever see, as a matter of fact, I think you can YouTube a black light test, and they kind of show you, they washed it, they have germs, the virus on their hands, they put some soap on and wash it. It breaks down the proteins, it washes right away. So there are good fats and bad fats that you need in your system. So again, the avocados, the walnuts, Brazil nuts, pecans, these are the good fats that you need. You can have an avocado a day. We are guacamole through and through in this household.
Okay.
You know, keep that in your system. It's good for your skin. The good fat stops bad fat from accumulating in your system.
Now that's so weird whenever you say fats, because most people think, well, I shouldn't put any fats in my body.
Yeah, because
and I've actually read that fats aren't really the problem. It's more the sugars and the sugars, the carbs, the sodiums. That's really what's putting the weight on you. It's not the fats.
So there's two things, and a lot of folks use blanket statements with fats.
Sure.
They say, fat's not the problem. Good fat's not the problem.
Okay.
Bad fat, your LDL, low density lipoproteins, lipids, that's bad fat. That's part of what clogs things, right? When we looked at how the entire circumference of this is compromised by the fatty deposit. Okay. That's the problem. We need to do things that are lean to strengthen our muscular skeletal system, which holds our frame, is attached to our to our surrounding and protecting us. And the more that you have that's lean, you're actually burning more. So you end up burning calories. So this is, and let me know if you can see this example of 1 pound of lean muscle. Mm-hmm. Is that coming through, JB?
I can see it, yes.
Yeah, okay. One represents 1 pound of lean muscle, and this represents 1 pound of fat.
Wow.
See? So fat has more volume to it, right? This is dense. That's why it's smaller, even though it's 1 pound and 1 pound. But the difference is this, remember, these fatty cells that we talked about are expanding and growing like balloons. This is a bunch of balloons. This represents, if you can see my hand, 1 pound of excess fat. So imagine when someone says, oh, I need to drop 15. I need to drop 15 of these, 20 of these, 25 of these. It can be done, especially if you cut out the gluten and you cut out the dairy and you're sugar conscious, so you watch your sugar. It doesn't mean that you don't have any sugar. You get turbinado sugar. You can get date sugar. You can dry out dates in the oven, put them in a blender or your Ninja, grind it, and have date sugar. You can get coconut sugar. This is coconut sugar is in the supermarket. It should be in the same aisle as your regular sugar, or order it through Vitamin Shop or whatever your particular preference is in terms of ordering food. VitaCost, there's different things, but get your coconut sugar or date sugar. I'm telling you, you're not missing much, because we still do baking and I still do pancakes and things like that, but I want to give folks a couple of alternatives in terms of bread and baking. If you take your regular rolled oats, gluten-free oatmeal, and you put it in a blender, again, or your Ninja, whatever your food processor is, and blend it for about a minute, you're going to end up with oat flour. Oat flour cooks very much like wheat flour. So you could basically follow a wheat recipe with oats, and you don't have any gluten. So on
So
the
what
weekends,
else do you mix that with? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But what
no.
else do you? So
So
do you put any liquids in the blender with that?
yeah, no, not because you're just making flour. So just
Okay.
like if you're going to take any box flour and start making pancakes or waffles or a cake, now we're just
Okay.
making flour. So we're just taking
Okay.
the rolled oats, not quick, because
Mhm.
quick has sugar in it, white refined sugar. We don't want that. Old-fashioned rolled oats in the blender, in the Ninja for a minute, make your oat flour. Now go to town. Bread your chicken breast, bread your eggplants, um, bread whatever it is that you want to do, and you don't have gluten going on. One other thing, two types of oils, good fats that you want to cook with: avocado oil and grape seed oil. Grape seed oil. These are two oils that have a very high smoke table, and they don't turn into trans fats when you fry or saute with them. Olive oil is good on your salad, fresh, or if you lightly saute mushrooms or you're making an omelet and you're not going to cook very long. When you cook olive oil too long and it begins to boil and pop, it turns, its molecular structure turns into a trans fat. Okay. A lot of things when you start looking at what you're eating and buying, and you'll see things mixed with canola oil. Okay, it's a non-trans fat, doesn't have the calorie count, doesn't have the trans fat. But here's where it's bad: it's GMO, because canola oil is actually taken from the plant called a rapeseed plant, which you can imagine rapeseed would be very hard to market. It also has a very foul smell to it. So what they did was they started this in Canada, which is why it's called canola oil. Started in Canada, and they put a deodorant suppressant in the oil so that you don't smell how pungent the rapeseed is, because that's what it comes from. Now you're not getting a trans fat, but you're getting these chemicals. You're basically eating ingredients that are in deodorants to suppress the smell, so that canola oil has no smell when you open up the jar or the bottle. So you don't want to cook with canola oil or vegetable oils. You want something that is compatible with a high smoke table. And that would be your avocado oil and your grapeseed oil. Coconut oil, you'll see, even when you start, it doesn't burn quickly.
Mhm.
And that's what you want. You want an oil that doesn't burn too quickly, because when it's burning, it's becoming a carcinogen. When it's becoming a carcinogen, it's in combat and contrast to your health, to the health of your body.
Okay. Believe it or not, you've answered half of my questions that I already had planned out. But trust and believe, I still have more, but yeah, you answered half of them already.
Yeah.
And you definitely motivated me to make a lot of changes in my life.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we think that we're
Just
eating healthy.
JB, can I just add also really quickly?
Sure, go ahead.
Because I love to impart this information to folks. Make water your drink of choice. Okay. I think I saw Joe swigging down some water there. Yeah, there you go. Okay, Joy, I see you. I see you. Very good. In this household, water is the drink of choice.
Okay.
Followed by a almond, walnut, or oat milk, because we're not doing dairy, right? Not drinking the dairy milk. And that's for our cereals and when you're mixing your pancakes. Sorry, let me just jump back to that real quick. The other ingredients you were talking about. So once we have the oat flour, just follow your recipe. Whatever it is, if you're baking cupcakes, cinnamon, allspice, oil, you're just using oat flour instead of wheat flour, because we don't want that sticky gluten. We don't want that, right? And it's still there, folks, right? This is not moving. It's still sticking. You can see.
That's just bread.
And this is just white wheat bread with some water added to it.
Wow.
Just moisture. And as you know, the inside of our bodies are moist. So that's all that is. Get to making, whether it is your own breads. Now you can get gluten-free breads, but make sure you're not mixing canola oil, because they do that with a lot of gluten-free products. So you will have to search. JB, I can get you some information on like a coconut-based butter, melts just like butter. Again, it's the good fats. the
Okay.
MCTs, your medium chain triglycerides. So because it's medium chain and not long, there's not a lot of information for your body to get confused with. It processes it quickly and puts it where it
Okay.
needs to go. When it's long chain fats, like you'll find in your bad foods, then the body can't break it down quickly enough. So it just says, you know what, just send it to the fatty cells.
Hmm.
So it's important to know that. And once in a while, if you want to get creative with your water and put cucumber in, or put mint or cilantro in, or watermelon, and make sure your watermelon is seeded.
Okay.
Unseeded or seedless watermelon, seedless grapes, or GMO. If you think back, I know when I was a kid, we were always spitting out the watermelon seeds and always spitting out the grape seeds. Here's what we didn't know nutritionally: grape seeds and watermelon seeds packed full of nutrients, packed
Mm.
full of nutrients.
Mm.
You know, and my daughter just started her out on eating grapes, and just keep chewing, honey. And now she doesn't even think twice. My kids, my boys, they just pop in a grape and eat the whole grape. I do the same thing. I do the same thing with
Wow.
watermelon, with the watermelon seeds, and even the white rind. I remember my grandmother telling me, you eat the white rind, you'll get sick. Packed full of dense nutrients.
Mm.
So you can
No
even
problem.
take, if you're making a giant tossed salad, and make your salads exciting. You know, when I make a salad, I get the arugula, I get the red tip lettuce. My friend Tina will know about red tip lettuce when we used to always eat that.
Mm.
Um, and, you know, red onions or white onions. Cut up a couple of dates. I season the salad with like oregano and some rosemary and then some olive oil. And if you wanted to, you could get like a watermelon scooper or ice cream scooper if you had leftover watermelon rind packed with nutrients. Sometimes we freeze them and save them for later. I know I'm going to have the salad later. You just let
Mm.
it thaw earlier in the day, throw it in your salad. It absorbs the olive oil and the garlic and everything you put in your super salad. And you're getting all these nutrients and you feel better for it, because once you start eating more and more live enzymes, you will just feel the energy come. Like right now, I am ready right now. If it was me, you, and Joe, and we're gonna play the 3-on-3, let's find 3 other people. You know,
Wow.
let's get Joy, Maria, and Tina, and we could do mixed teams. And I'm ready to
Mhm.
go. If it's tennis, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go right now. When my kids are like, if I hear somebody shooting in the hoop, I'm putting on my shorts and my sneakers, and I'm going out to the driveway, and
Mm.
let's do it.
Mhm.
Because I feel like I have this energy. And let me just share one other thing that I start a lot of clients out with. If you don't like running and you don't like some of the sports I mentioned, I get it. Everyone's not into sport. My youngest son is not into sports. I got to make him do stuff. Think about 5 or 6 of your favorite songs. When you hear these songs, you have to move, whether it's Follow Me, Percolate, Don't Stop Till You Get Enough,
Mhm.
Let's Go Crazy, Let's Dance, whatever the songs are that move you, put them on and dance to them 3-4 times a week. That's an aerobic workout. That's 20 or 25 minutes of a workout. And
Mm.
once you start doing that, the body will start saying, oh, the demand is placed on us to do this. And that's
Mm.
how we end up getting into situations as we leave young adulthood. Because when we're eating whatever we're eating, we're going to the club, we're there all night. Okay.
Mhm.
10 in the morning, fellows will get together, run around or play a sport. Ladies may play a sport, run around also, or we may all go to the mall. You're walking around up and down the mall, you're shopping, you're moving, you're there all day, you're moving. Then as we start getting the quote unquote real jobs, and if you have families and start expanding, it gets a little more complicated, and I understand that. But just means just like a business meeting, schedule your time. That's how you'll get there, right? Schedule your time. JB and I was talking about this. It had been so long since we had seen each other until about
Yeah.
like 6 months ago. Before that,
Yeah.
it had been like forever. And it's like, you can have the best intentions, but if I don't schedule 3 weeks from now, have JB over or do this thing, you'll miss it because other life circumstances will come in. So the same thing. if you're going to work out, or if you're going to do this aerobic by dancing or just aerobics, schedule your time so that it's in your mind as an appointment. Okay. And that's how you'll get there. Schedule when you go to the store, you're getting a few canisters of rolled oats. And I have it, I keep some, folks. I have flour if I want to fry a fish in avocado oil or grapeseed oil. I have in a Ziploc bag the flour with the seasoning, the Himalayan pink salts in there, the pepper, the live rosemary, little doodads, this and that. I can't give away all my secrets, right? But it's in there. And so then I just shake it up, put it in, fry it. I have another Ziploc bag for pancakes, waffles, cake, which is not seasoned at all, except for maybe like cinnamon, allspice, and nutmeg. Can't give away all my pancake secrets either, but you get the idea, right? Do what you want to do to make it right for you. Get yourself a waffle iron and make that, and you then, and not only that, you'll save money.
Yeah.
You'll save money because you're doing this yourself. You'll save money with your own bread. You'll save money instead of buying the frozen pancakes from BJ's or Costco's, instead of buying a cake from BJ's or Costco. Sometimes I'm with folks and they're like, oh, come on, Kyle, have a slice. You know, it's Marie's birthday and one slice won't kill you. And I'm like Morpheus in the Matrix. Like, I see all the ingredients. I can't eat it because I can't say I'm going to eat isodibicarbonate. I'm going to eat hydrochlorophyll phosphate.
Which is what?
Like,
what is that?
Next time you get a BJ's cake, a Sam's Club, Costco, just turn it over and just start counting. Start counting what's in it. And then think if you were making a birthday cake or someone was making a birthday cake to you. We're right back where we started this conversation, right? Eggs, flour, milk, maybe some cinnamon, baking soda or baking powder, vanilla flavoring. That's about it. But if you get those cakes, you'll see there's 45, 55 ingredients on them. Why? Because they want them to have a long shelf life. So they preserve it. Here's another reason why it's harder to lose weight now. Because all of those preservatives are a pseudo armor around that high caloric unit. So now you're like, okay, I'm going to go on a diet. I'm going to watch my weight, and I'm going to start hitting the treadmill or whatever. And you're like, man, it's been 3 weeks. I only lost 2 pounds. I'm getting discouraged. I may as well eat what I want to eat. Well, you're just beginning to burn through the additives. You haven't even gotten to the caloric unit yet. That's why it's hard. And there was a study done, people going on diets for 2 to 4 weeks back in the 40s and the 50s, and how they would actually lose weight in that time by simply making some changes. And why it's so hard now. It's so hard now because even your chickens, unless it's free range, or what I always tell folks is, find yourself a halal butcher or a kosher butcher in your area. I'm not vegan, but I'm vegan heavy. So once in a while when we have chicken or fish, I go to the halal market or go to a kosher market, and not to impede on anyone's religion. It's just how it's slaughtered, okay? And the halal and the kosher, it's a very sharp knife, slit to the jugular. It's only a pinch. The animal, the chicken, the cow, whatever, walks around, gets sleepy, lays down, goes to sleep. They take it to slaughter. When you're in a normal slaughterhouse, which they don't allow you to film anymore, they're very, if you search, you can find them. They hook the animal up by the cadaver from the sternum or the throat. They slit it. The animal sees its intestine, sees everything, goes into shock, releases uric acid on the inside and the outside, which is part of urine. And uric acid is directly related to our stress levels. I can clearly remember when I was working at a bank headquarters, and I was reading the paper, dating myself again, I know. But I'm reading the paper, and in the Star Ledger, it says road rage. And the next day, next week, I'm looking at road rage. And I'm like, what is road rage? I've never even heard of it. Because it was a new concept. All of a sudden, people couldn't take it anymore. They used to call it, when people would go to the post office, like they're waiting in lines or they're being traded, and they would go postal. Something has been going on with our foods to trigger us, and it's directly related to uric acid. So when you were getting your chicken from McDonald's and Burger King and Wendy's and Sonic and whoever and Kentucky Fried Chicken, and they're slaughtering the inhumane way by breaking the neck of the chicken. You ever hear like a chicken run around like a chicken with its head cut off? If you snap the chicken's neck like they do, the chicken's still alive because it felt it was attacked. It releases uric acid. They make a wing and a leg out of it and put it on a commercial, and it's finger looking good. Right? And it does taste good. I mean, you could put seasonings on almost anything and make it taste good. The problem is the product itself. The problem is the livestock and what they're doing to it. And when I was a kid, back when I was like one of the few chubby kids in class, there were very few of us. As a matter of fact, in my 7th grade class, it was me and another girl. We were the chubby ones. We were always teased. But like I said, now when I go to my kids' class and I pick them up from school, how many kids are overweight? I know it back then. The only way you told the difference between a girl and a boy was the hairstyle, because girls were straight up and down thin in their pre-adolescence. But now you see girls now, they're like, sometimes they're fully developed women. I have nieces and stuff, and you see them, they're like 14, and it's like, how'd this happen? This 14-year-olds didn't look like that. I'll see guys and kids, and I have nephews, and they're pudgy and they're big. They're pudgier than when the doctor put me on a diet. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I didn't even think I was big, but the doctor saw where I was heading. I was overweight. Mm-hmm. And we have conceptions in our mind that like if you're fat, you must be like totally obese. No, you just have to be outside of your shape, and that's out of shape. When we understand some of the ways we can get back in shape and some of the alternatives we can use, like a different type of flour, to make a different type of bread, to make a different type of veal, eggplant, chicken parmesan, use your oat flour, to use a different type of pancake, mix it with oat flour or teff flour, T-E-F-F, has even lower carbs than oatmeal. Oatmeal cooks the most like wheat, so you won't miss a beat. There's other flours that are excellent, like almond flour, coconut flour, but their density is different. And so if something calls for a cup of flour, you might have to use 3/4 of a cup of flour. So you have to experiment, but they're all available and they're all better options. As we get toward closing, I want to say that people tell me, well, Kyle, it costs so much to eat right. If I want to eat healthy, it costs so much. And I get it. I do get it. But you can simplify that by shopping the perimeter of your supermarket and getting foods. And just think about changing the colors. Get your purples, your greens, your reds, your yellows, peppers, zucchinis, eggplants, mustard greens, collard greens, kale. Mustard greens are very powerful. There's not a week that goes by that we're not having some greens, like every day. Like that's part of the meals. So your dark leafy greens also have calcium in them. So when you're cutting back on meat, or people will say, well, how will I get my protein? It's protein in kale, protein in mustard greens, protein in broccoli. We just don't know these things, and we're geared to think of it a certain way. So it's key to remember that you have alternatives. And I also tell folks that, you know what? I'd rather pay a little more on the front end if I have to than pay on the back end, because medications aren't cheap. They're keeping us sick. They don't cure us anymore. Chris Rock had a very funny joke. They're mad at all the money they lost from polio, curing polio, right? So now they're not curing anymore. They're making us live with it. You can't live without these medications. And we all hear the commercial with the side effects. It's almost as long as the commercial. Yeah. Because the side effects are real, because corporations sit around and they say, hey, well, we got this new pill, Triodoxil, right? And they say, okay, what's the pros and the cons? Okay, the cons are there's going to be liver compromises, there's going to be pancreas compromise, it's going to affect nervous systems, blah, blah, blah. Okay, what are the pluses? The pluses is people won't start to see that until about 5 to 7 years and beyond. So they'll approve it, because they'll say, out of all of those people how many are going to actually sue us? There's a guy named Steve Trudeau. He actually talked about this because he used to be in the boardrooms. And he'd say they're the worst gangsters you could ever imagine in the corporate rooms, especially dealing with food or medicine, because they say, approve it. Let's say we get 20 people who want to sue us. 10 of those people are going to fall off after a few years. We'll wait them out because they have the pharmaceutical lawyers. And then of the 10 people who are left, we'll be able to buy off like 7 of them. And then the other 2 or 3, they might end up dying in the meantime or whatever, so it'll all fall short. So by that time, 5, 7, 10, 15 years, they've made billions, billions. So they see it as worth the risk. Okay, we'll just green light this project and put this medication out. We'll say it really fast, as fast as we can on the commercial about if you're feeling like this, diarrhea, so on and so forth, may cause death, stroke, lead to this, so on and so forth. And close out the commercial, and hopefully you'll get it because our minds have downshifted and we just want the pill. Present day Corona, we're waiting for this vaccine. I'm not going to tell anybody what to do or take. Don't take that vaccine. Don't. No, I know I'm not. Now, and I'll share, it's a personal decision. But just for kicks and giggles, when you get a chance, Google ingredients in the flu shot. I used to at one point think it was just part of the influenza strand that was dead. It's so much more, including formaldehyde, which is embalming fluid. There are so many things in it. And I have not ever taken a flu shot. And the last time I had the flu was 1999. The rest of the time, I'm gearing up my immune system. And when I start to feel certain things, I'm kicking in high gear, the elderberry, the oil of oregano. It comes in a dropper. I put the drop directly on my, on my throat, squeeze it out, gag for a minute, and then you'll start to almost immediately feel that wellness taking place. The nutrients are nourishing you. But if you're not doing that, you're compromising your system. Another thing too, when it gets cold, you come in, a little bit of oil, a little bit of pink Himalayan sea salt to create a saline steam with oregano and rosemary, and just breathe that in for a couple of minutes. It lubricates the cavity in the sinuses, which impedes any viruses or bacteria that could be there. And you breathe that in for about 5-10 minutes. Give yourself a nice little facial, and at the same time, you're breathing in the vapors that you really need that will kill, because that's how the virus is actually getting to us. They tell you not to touch your face and to wash your hands, because when it's on your hands, it can't harm you. Coronavirus, influenza, none of that can harm you on your hands. What happens is you get a piece of gum, you put it in your mouth, the flu found its way into your mouth. You rub your eye, the flu or the corona found its way into any of your orifices. So just kind of keep that in mind.
Oh, wow. Well,
yeah, I don't want to run too much over, and I don't know if anybody had any other questions for you, JB. But
yeah, we're going to get into that in a couple of seconds. There's just 2 more things that I want to go over there really quick, and I'm pretty sure people have questions. I've already had people texting me questions. So 2 more things that I just want to cover quickly. The first thing is the effects of vitamin D. I know that a lot of people, especially people of color in the Northeast, tend to have vitamin D deficiency. I myself have it. I didn't know that I had it for years, but I myself am vitamin D deficient, so are most of the members of my family. First off, what causes vitamin D deficiency, and what causes it? What are the effects of vitamin D deficiency, and how can we rebuild our vitamin D levels in our bodies?
Excellent question. So vitamin D is one of the most important vitamins to get. So how do you activate it? You activate it by sunlight. The reason you are or may be vitamin D deficient is because you are African American, and the standard metric is for everyone to get 10 to 15 minutes of sunlight without sunscreen, and then go into protection or go into your home or your shelter. Well, we have melanin in our skin, so we really need 45 minutes to an hour of daylight for the ultraviolet rays to hit the pituitary gland, team up together, and release vitamin D. You can also get vitamin D from eggs and also salmon. You want your salmon to be wild and not farmed, because again, farmed, they're feeding all kinds of byproducts. So you want wild Alaskan salmon. And without vitamin D, you're prone to a weakened immune system. So that's the effects of not having it. The other thing that you can do, because as we approach the fall and winter months, one thing I wanted to say too, because I talked about us with melanin, but I don't want to forget anyone else. So people who have fairer skin, 10 to 15 minutes of daylight. And don't worry about sunscreen for the 10 or 15 minutes if you are fair skinned. You need it. If you have the sunscreen on, you're blocking the ultraviolet rays that need to be absorbed in your skin. So that's very, very key. All right. And again, when you get a chance, look at your sunscreens, turn it over and read it, and start figuring out. Look up the definition. You'll be shocked. Now, sometime when we're in the sun a lot during the summertime, anybody can burn. Just get calamine lotion, regular calamine lotion from the drugstore, and rub some of that on you. It's much better, much healthier for your skin than any sunscreen that you could possibly use. But vitamin D is big. You can order it online, get it in the little dropper. You need about 12,000 ICs. That's about 10 or 12 droplets. And you'll have yourself at an optimal level for vitamin D.
Oh, wow. Okay. And my last question is about intermittent fasting. That's something that we constantly hear about, people that are intermittent fasting to either lose weight or to, I guess, restart their body. Can you explain exactly what intermittent fasting is and what it does for your body?
So intermittent fasting is something that I implore as well. Now, there are different timetables that you can use. So for me, try to eat no later than 8:30, the latest, or before, right? And don't eat until 10 or 11:30 the next morning. And what happens is your food is then burning the food from last night, and it will go to the energy source of fatty tissues because it's going to pull from what's already been stored. So intermittent fasting also gives your body the chance to recalibrate. Every body, and I mean that in singular words, every person's body is uniquely different. So you need to find the intermittent interval that works for you. So for some people, it's 16 hours. Like I said, for me, breakfast used to be 8:30, 9 in the morning. Now it's not till 10, 10:30, 11:30. And like I said, you start pulling from the night before, and you recalibrate your system. There's a real health benefit to it. It can even help regulate blood sugar levels. So folks who have diabetes, it's recommended that they try intermittent fasting. Find your gauge that works for you. I never like to say one size fits all. And I'm a believer in it because I was not a believer in it. I was always of the mindset of, in the morning, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. You break the fast, breakfast from last night. You get up at 7, 8, 9 in the morning, and you're having your breakfast. And it's your most important and heaviest meal. It can be your heaviest meal. It is the most important meal. It just doesn't have to happen at the top of the day, especially if you're trying to gear your system, recalibrate it, burn existing fat, keep yourself regulated with how your body is storing fat. So intermittent fasting, just find the interval that works for you.
Wow. There's so much that you covered tonight that I didn't know. It's actually inspired me to make some major changes.
Good.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to order a diet plan for you. And starting today, I'm going to follow that plan for 8 weeks.
Okay.
And I want to see the change that it's going to make in my body. So anyone else that wants to do it, feel free to join me. You can email me at falltorisepod@gmail.com. We can track each other because I genuinely want to see what happens with my body. Kyle, you've known me for a long time.
Yeah.
When you met me, I was a skinny little kid.
Yeah.
But over time, over injuries, I've put on a lot of weight.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to see if I still have access to it, but I 1 second.
And while you're doing that, that's exactly how it happens. You remember my story when I said my back was injured and I couldn't do any exercise.
Yeah.
I'm still eating throughout the day like I normally do, and I started gaining weight. So once I cut out the gluten, like you would just have to find one component that would change your body's molecular structure. So a lot of times we have an injury and then we get out of the mode of our bike ride or our jog or whatever the workout was that we used to do. And then we have a hard time getting back to it because we have a job and you have kids and you have a significant other and you have all these other things going on. And like I said, just like a business appointment, schedule it.
Yeah.
Some people, I recommend that they schedule their dinner time, their intermittent fasting, schedule your workout, schedule your, every morning, if I don't do anything, I do 60 push-ups. Like if my day gets so busy and things come out of left field, like life will happen, I get up in the morning, I do at least 60 push-ups. Like at least do something, because it's actually been documented that if you're parking in the parking lot furthest away from the store or your place of business, you can increase your health by doing that, or by taking the stairs, or by doing squats or push-ups, 5 to 10% just by doing that and nothing else. And we're not talking about basketball, football, we're not talking about weightlifting. That's a large percentage to get you towards your goal of optimal health. And like I said, the way I feel, and my wife and I, we go dancing, we don't sit down.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're supposed to sweat. And sometimes I'll have guys and sometimes females, like I really don't like to sweat. Just work on thinking about it. You can always get pretty later. You can always get handsome afterward. You're made to sweat. Yeah. One other key thing, your deodorants. Now, I'm not trying to say that you all need it, but
some people do.
Or aluminum in your existing deodorants. It's blocking your glands underneath your armpit, which connect to your lymph nodes, which is key to your immune system. So now you're not sweating out the toxins and the bacteria under your arm. It's backing up into the lymph nodes. And in some years, not quickly, but when you hear somebody all of a sudden say, oh my goodness, I got this, I just got diagnosed with that. Yeah, you didn't just, it's been building. With foods, with deodorants, with sunscreen. People in Africa and India, they don't use sunscreen. Their cancer rate is nowhere near our cancer rate. Why is that? Food and how we are dealing with the sun. Yeah. So think about those things and see what you can incorporate in your life.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to follow this plan. See, this is what I used to look like. Jacked, strong guy, got injured, surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Surgery. This is all within a year. That's 3 different surgeries. Left ankle, right ankle, right foot. And I got lazy.
Right.
Got that size. Yeah. And I look back at how that happens. This is me going food shopping after surgery. And if you look at the my shopping cart, you got hot dogs.
I could just look and I could see what we were talking about, those things that trigger us to buy. I see yellow, I see red, right? I see green. Think about, again, Wendy's, McDonald's. These colors are actually connected to things that make us want to satisfy a thirst or hunger.
Yeah.
And so I mean, we have to know what's going on so that we can then say, oh, let me make a healthier choice.
It's weird. A lot of the things that you've mentioned, let's see. Milk, Oreos, hot dogs.
So remember we said Oreos. Oreos has the alkali in it. Alkali is in some detergents, right? This is what we're eating. Yeah. Right? And so the body can't push out and filter what it needs to do, and we back up, and then we become inflamed.
Yeah. It's weird because I gave all of that stuff up, went that size.
Yeah.
And then stopped eating meat and went down to that size.
Okay.
But I've gotten lazy again. So a challenge that I'm going to make for myself is I'm going to follow your diet plan. So within a span of 8 weeks, how much weight do you, let's just say I were to follow your plan exclusively, not deviate.
Mhm.
How much weight do you think the average person would lose?
For 8
Following
weeks,
8 weeks.
in 8 weeks, if you
8 weeks.
follow that, you can lose 15 to 20 pounds if you follow that completely.
15 total?
Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
I'm not a betting man, but I am.
Mhm.
So this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to follow your plan for 8 weeks.
Yep.
And if I don't lose 20 pounds in
Mhm.
8 weeks,
Yeah.
I will donate $200 to any charity of your choice.
Okay.
And I will be keeping everyone updated. If anyone would like to do this with me, let me know. You know, we can
Right.
shoot. I'll put my information out there.
Yeah.
We'll hold each other accountable. So you all have seen it. I will pay $200.
Okay, and I will be available to be that coach, right? So call me, text me, let me know what's going on, and even be honest. Because if you fall back, like you may not perfectly follow that to the T, but there are things we can do. So you have to know, if you have a slice of cake, how long will it take to burn those units off to get you back to square one?
Yeah.
And that's where we also fall off, because we'll say, oh, it was Elsa or Sonny's birthday, and I had cake and I had some wine, so I'm going to eat salads all this week. That's a start, but it's not enough. If you
Okay.
have 2 or 3 salads in between or with your meals, or big super salads, there are ways that you can compensate for what you've done to get yourself back on track. The key is to put yourself back on track by giving yourself a time period. So
Okay.
if I fall off for Thanksgiving, okay,
Mhm.
everybody's coming around, there's pies, there's cakes, there's all this stuff. I know it's a wash from Thursday to Sunday, but in my mind, Monday starts it.
Mhm.
And I'm telling myself, Monday, Monday. And if something happens that, someone's coming in from the airport and I have to pick them up Monday, and it doesn't happen, I move it to the next day. I couldn't do it Monday, it's Tuesday.
Mhm.
Keep that urgency. You will end up meeting that goal by placing that date and time stamp on it. You'll feel that angst to meet that. If you have to write it down, if you have to put it in your phone, in your calendar, make an appointment with yourself to get back on track. Because that's what happens, as you alluded to, JB,
Yeah.
we get off track.
Yeah.
And then it's hard to get back on. So now you're at ground zero where you can say, I'm going to start this whenever, and I'm going to
Mhm.
count into 8 weeks. And then I'm going to be there to support you all the way.
So, all right. So let me see what date that is. I'm going to do weigh-ins. I'll post it. I'm going to create a social media page specifically for this. Please contact me at falltorisepod@gmail.com. If anybody's willing to do it with me, even on the screen, I'll just raise your hand. But we got one.
Put people on the spot. People hear
No,
diet. We're planting seeds.
We are.
Everyone knows how to get in touch with JB.
Yes.
So,
we're definitely going to
JB,
do that.
I will. You can share my number.
Yeah, I was actually going to do that next.
And my email address. Right.
Yeah, I was actually going to do that. So we're looking at
October 12th?
October 7th. No, October 12th, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So on October 12th, we're going to weigh in again.
Yeah.
I'll weigh myself tomorrow morning.
Good.
And
Yeah.
like I said, I have to do 20 pounds. If not 20 pounds, your charity gets $200. Everyone's heard it.
All right.
So, yeah, you've already beaten me in a bet before. You made me eat tofu. So I'm not losing again. So, now, if anyone wants to get in contact with you and has any questions, how do they reach you?
Well, number one, I'm on Facebook.
Okay.
KIELTHOMS.
Okay.
My email is CAPTKIEL@AOL. Okay. And my number is 973-418-4135. So any of those. And then forthcoming will be a blog and a podcast. So I'll keep all of your guests informed about that.
Sure.
And we'll keep on building together, JB, and supporting each other in our venues. And I'm here to help and coach anyone. And anytime you have a question, just let me know. Hi, Elsa.
Definitely. Now, we normally the way that we do this, we have a question and answer section during the show. For those of you that are new to the show, the way that we do the question and answer section is you can raise your hand if you're unfamiliar with how to do that on Zoom.
Oh, I thought Elsa was saying hi. She might be raising her hand.
She may have been raising her hands. So with that, you raise your hand. You can access that by pressing the 3 dots on your screen to say more. And when you press that, that raises your hand. If you can't do that, you can send a question through the chat. If that doesn't work, raise your hand on the screen as Joe is raising. And if none of those work, you can take your microphone off and then let us know that you have a question. So already I have, well, first of all, let me get some chat questions.
Okay.
Because those questions have been there for a while.
Good.
And we also have a couple of people with their hands raised.
All right.
Hang on 1 second. Well, looks like those questions were already answered. I'm sorry. Let's go to the first question. Tina Hoffman.
I'm not sure how to use this. I haven't really done this before. Can you hear me?
You're doing well.
No, we hear you and see I see your beautiful face, Tina.
Kyle's laughing right now, and I made a lot of notes because we've known each other since we were in our 20s. Mm-hmm. So I just want to say, Kyle.
I know.
I once had a severe sore throat.
No, not once. This was how we met.
Well, no, we worked together at that time, but I want to say props to Grandma who said put onions in your socks.
Oh, right? Yeah. Yes.
Right. You referenced Grandma.
Grandma Clara.
Grandma said put onions in your socks.
Grandma Clara Toms. When you have a fever, cut up those onions, put them in socks, sleep with it in the morning, wash your feet with lemon juice and baking powder. Yep.
Remember, I was like, look at my capsules.
Always I remember, yes.
Okay, so I'll move on. There are a lot of other people with questions. I want to show you something you didn't talk about.
Yeast, full of vitamin
now, Kyle,
B. Yeah.
Look at the back of that. Can you see that?
I know it all. I know it well.
Yes.
Okay, you didn't mention it. My question to you is, what do we mix it with?
You can, well, a lot of people, if you have a hard time with it, folks like to mix it with tomato juice, right?
Not us, but yeah.
For the people who are tough, you can mix it with anything, but it is an acquired taste.
Sure.
But it is packed full of all B vitamins help facilitate energy to your system. Packed full of vitamins and minerals. And like I said, we're mineral creatures. That's what we're most efficient in is our minerals. So brewer's yeast, also nutritional yeast, which has a very cheesy flavor. And like when I said, when you were doing those chicken cutlets with your oatmeal flour instead of wheat flour, when you were doing the veal or eggplant parmigiana, if you want to put a little bit of olive oil in a blender, a little dab of either water or almond milk and nutritional yeast, you'll get a very cheesy flavor with nutritional yeast. And go online, there's millions of recipes on how to get it. There is a product called Daiya, D-A-I-Y-A. Their sliced cheese, it actually melts like dairy. It's the closest I've had and tried a lot of nasty cheese substitutes. Daiya's sliced cheese and cheddar and provolone is the closest to dairy cheese. It even melts. So you can make a grilled cheese sandwich or anything like that. Now, Daiya, I want to just also say, I'm disappointed that their block cheese and their shredded cheese has canola oil. Remember what we said about canola oil. It has a deodorant suppressant in it. So that's a chemical we don't want in our bodies. But for some reason, the sliced cheese, they use coconut oil and we're good with that. So you can make pizzas with it, grilled cheese, whatever. But nutritional yeast and brewer's yeast are very good components to get a lot of minerals, especially your B vitamins.
Well, we used to throw it on popcorn. But what do you think about making popcorn, and what kind of oil would you use to pop the popcorn and then put the brewer's yeast on?
Excellent question. And they both go. So I've tried it with nutritional yeast too. It gives a little more of a cheesy flavor, but yes, we used to put the brewer's yeast on the popcorn as well. Acquired taste, but always think about what you're giving your body, folks. And if you're starting kids out younger, it just becomes natural to them, just as natural as anything. But in terms of the oils, Tina, you want to use either an avocado, grape seed oil. Those are two of the best oils. They have a high smoke tolerance. And once oil starts smoking, you're creating carcinogens. So you don't want that. And you'll see, like, if you go into any Chinese food restaurant, or if you go into any fast food restaurant and they're dipping the fries or whatever, and you'll see the smoke coming from the oil. It's saturated, it's a trans fat. You don't want those kinds of things. So
I used to use olives, so I'm glad to hear that. That's not something that I knew. So I was glad to hear that.
Yes. A lot of people know the benefits of olive oil and they'll cook or fry with it. You change the molecular structure when it gets heated to the point of a boil and starts popping. So you want to fry and saute with, you can saute with olive oil, just don't allow the oil to start popping. That's when you're changing its structure. But for avocado oil, as well as grapeseed oil and coconut oil, those are the ones you want to do your hot cooking with.
All right, I'll just shorten this because I have a lot of questions for you, and I'm sure other people do. But I have a child, my youngest, who I recently put on to sort of like a modified keto, because I'm familiar with keto and cutting out carbs and sugars and things. But we'll save that for another day, and I hope you'll do this again to talk maybe about, you know, how to best do something with someone who's a youth. But my last question has to do with, so if we're doing this for 8 weeks on the diet, I don't need to be on a diet.
I was getting ready to say, yeah.
No, I don't need to, but I could certainly improve my health and do something with my son, you know. We're going back to school fully remote because of COVID.
Right.
And I want to do that. So are we printing like an 8-week calendar and like counting down all the days? Are we going to have a diet meeting once a week or every day, or how's that going to work?
So I'll leave that, excellent question. I'll leave that to JB because he sprung he challenged himself, which I'm very proud of him for doing. I'm going to support him.
Oh, I love a challenge.
That's what I was going to say. With your son or anyone who has kids, that's a great way to get them involved, is to do it with a challenge and put something up, whether you take them out or you're going to get them their favorite little thing or what have you, if they stick with it. And then the health benefits, you start seeing and feeling it, and then they'll start wanting it. Same thing with everyone else. And for you, that might even be, like I said earlier, Tina, you may do a dance challenge. And dancing is an aerobic workout.
Well, that sounds great. I'm just here. Just wave, Aunt Nancy.
Nancy!
Oh, Aunt Nancy wants to say hi. She wants to get on the camera.
I'm sending my love. I'm sending my love to Nancy. And
love. All right. So thank you very much, Kyle. This was a lot of fun. And I hope that, you know, we reconnect in the next 56, 7 days times 8 weeks, 56 days. It'd be great.
Yes. And you have my number and everything in the meantime.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Good night.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, Nancy.
Thank you. We have a question from TC. I don't know if you're still on. TC.
Are they
muted?
muted?
Logged out. All right. We have a question that was sent in by chat.
Yeah.
From Tamaya. Recently, after moving, I've been having swollen ankles and feet. It's been on and off for more than a week and become uncomfortable and hard to walk without pain. Do you know what the causes are?
So off the bat, you can't really do a diagnosis, but what I can tell you to be cognizant of is to make sure that you are keeping your fluid intake up or increased. Again, water is the drink of choice. She could get some comfort by elevating her feet. Um, the other thing is she could be retaining by way of having too much sodium in the system. And I would also just recommend something that we don't always do. And with COVID, it's a challenge now, but to reach out to your physician because sometimes there is a fluid flow or backup because the heart valve may not be completely pumping the way it ought to. So definitely follow up with that. Our body gives us these warning signs because it's our body. And so we shouldn't ignore it because it's trying to get our attention about something. So I don't know if she's been to the doctor yet or not, but if she hasn't, I would recommend that. And in the meantime, watch the sodium intake, watch the wheat because she's consuming gluten. If she is consuming gluten, gluten is in your system. It's sticking to the insides and causing all kinds of backup and clogs like we showed on the, the artery that gets compromised. And when you don't have that circumference open, it's backing up. So you're not getting the flow of blood, which is carrying oxygen and nutrients. And so your body is having all kinds of problems.
Okay. We actually have Joe. Joe actually has 3 questions. The first one is, what are some ways that we can fight the natural decline of testosterone?
Some ways to, what was
fight
that?
The natural decline of testosterone.
So there is a herb called Kat Tong Ali. It's K-A-T. I'm sorry. It's C-A. It's K-A-T. L. Oh my goodness. A-L-I. Kat Tong Ali. C-A-T-T-O-N-G-A-L-I. And there's something else called Trabilis. And sometime with the Vitamin Shop, I recommend Vitamin Shop a lot because it's more clean than GNC. The combination of the two with Panax or Korea, ginseng will help replenish testosterone levels that might be going down. And I'm glad that the person said naturally, because those are always things that I'm looking for, clean, natural. That's why I don't always recommend GNC. You may see their commercial, I forget what it's some kind of thing, but Frank Thomas is doing it. But there's a lot of dyes and byproducts in it, so it's unclean. And Vitamin Shop tends to be more clean, and Vitapose, Vitamix also online will give you healthier versions and cleaner versions of things to help with your testosterone. But that's just a few things that you can start with. Also, saw palmetto, and I can get some more information to them as well. But those are some natural things that you could do right off the bat.
Okay, 2 other questions from them. What factor does gluten play in regards to insulin levels?
In regard to?
Insulin levels.
It's key because it spikes your insulin levels because wheat turns into glucose and it has a high glucose count. So you spike. Again, that's why we're saying use as an alternative. Rolled oats into a blender or a Ninja, blend it down for a minute, make flour, whatever you wanted to use that, or teff flour. It has even a lower carb count than oatmeal, and that is T-E-F-F, teff flour. So look to order that online or in your supermarkets. My ShopRite has 3 aisles dedicated to nutrition, and teff flour is there. So check out stores that kind of have specialized health sections such as Wegmans. If not, then go online and order it.
Okay. His last question is, what's a safe cheat meal, or is there such a thing?
So anything, yes, that has that is nutrient dense. And
Okay.
so by that we mean nuts, dates, and these are also not only as a cheat meal, you can roll this as a snack. I just give you a nice, healthy, nutritious snack. Dates, you can get them pitted, or if you pit them yourself, chop them up or blend them, roll it in some chia seeds, sprinkle some coconut, toasted coconut flour on it. You have a good cheat snack right there that will kind of give you the good nutrients, potassium, magnesium, everything that you need for your blood, everything that you need for your immune system. Potassium and magnesium is key there. And you get a nice sweet snack that's healthy. So you don't want to use the cheat meals that are the that's when you go off track, because most people at some point in time you will make an exception and go off track. So save that for off track, and then you want to address by exercise and diet what you may have done if it was a weekend or a specialized dinner. In between, make yourself a trail mix out of pumpkin seeds, walnuts. Again, you can chop up dates, coconut flour. And I'm a big believer whenever I run out the house, having a bag of trail mix that I've made myself. Okay. So that's all nuts, seeds, dates, raisins. They're kind of high in sugar, so just be careful with it. Make your own trail mix. That's really good in between to have it throughout the workday, or if you're going to do some running around, have it in a Ziploc bag, and you can just go to town with that.
Okay. Now there's another question.
If you wanted to have a drink, something that would be filling, you could have banana with a little bit of avocado, and you could put some strawberries and blueberries in the blender and mix that. And you put it in a container and have that with you. Throw in either some almond butter or peanut butter in that, and those proteins will kind of hold you.
Okay, thank you. We have a question from Galaxy Note 10, and her question is, do you recommend any types of detoxes?
Any type of detox?
Yes.
Yeah, so again, Vitamin Shoppe has a very good detox. It's called Super Colon Cleanse. Couldn't get any better. Okay. And you can do that for up to 2 weeks, depending upon how you feel. So sometime if I am feeling bloated, or if you have one of those, like I said, specialized weekends where you maybe went off track, my body will immediately feel it, and I'll just want to cleanse myself. So I'll just kind of take the Super Colon Cleanse for that day, and I'm good. Other folks, depending upon how you feel, how backed up you are, how bloated you feel, you may want to go up to 2 weeks on the colon cleanse before you stop. And the reason you're doing that is because it is loosening up the muscles in your colon, and you don't want them to become lazy muscles. So after 2 weeks, and then you just want to watch how you're eating, take in more fiber, and your body will do itself what it needs to. But in the interim, if you're feeling blocked and clogged and you're feeling lethargic and heavy laden, Super Colon Cleanse, I really like that.
To add on to that, how do you feel about colonics?
So there's mixed reviews on colonics. One thing is that they're not harmful. Okay. Sometimes people's the interval can become concerning because, again, you want those muscles to function on their own. Now, if you have, sometimes someone will have a poor diet, and they know they've had a poor diet for a long time. So then, a colonic to get yourself cleansed, kind of get you starting on square one. And then from there, change the healthy foods and change to high fiber foods and nutrient dense foods. Your body will take care of itself. Just like when you get a cut, you stop the bleeding, you apply pressure, you wash it off, you get a scab, and then you get new skin. But if you're not doing all of those things, you can end up with an infection, right? So the same thing with the body. If you give it the nutrients and you give it exercise and you give it water to hydrate it and you give it minerals, your body will partner with you and meet you halfway to get you where you ultimately want to go.
Okay, got it. All right, TC had a question. TC? Let me see if I can find you. I don't know if your mic's off. Hang on. If you're asking a question,
hello.
TC, here we go.
Hello.
Hi, TC.
Hello, TC.
Hi, Kyle. This is Tanisha Clark.
Oh my goodness! All these people. I feel really good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for what you're doing, just giving us all these jewels, dropping them like crazy. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I wanted to ask you, how do you feel about the occasional consumption of faux meat, whether it be Beyond Meat or Impossible Burger? How do you feel about that?
Tanisha, that's a great question. I'm glad you brought that up. So I'm not for it, and I'm going to tell you why. I was very excited about 4 years ago when I saw the Impossible Burger was coming out. They did a feature on it on a business feature on MSNBC or something. And so I immediately took the computer, I looked up their website, and they use GMO products. They even said it on their own website. So a lot of those meat substitutes, Beyond Burger, Impossible Burger, they're using products that have been saturated with glyphosate. Glyphosate is in Roundup weed killer. And again, so the foods that we're eating are compromising our system. So I'm not big on, I haven't found one and I keep searching, but I haven't found one. Beyond Meat was using canola oil, which as we discussed, canola has a deodorant suppressant in it. So we don't want that in our system. I have not found one that I've been sold on yet. And there's, Garden and Morningstar.
Right.
Once you start getting into 35 and 45 ingredients, and especially when those ingredients are foreign, we talked a little bit earlier about the azide dicarbonate, right? So yoga mat material, we don't want to consume that.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Kyle. I really appreciate all the information.
Oh, thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it so much. It's so great to hear from you.
And I'll text you later.
Okay, very good.
Are there any other questions? I'm just looking through my list. A few screens. All right, there is one more that was sent to me. What is the effects of alcohol on your body? Whether it be wine, vodka, whiskey, what exactly does it do?
I couldn't hear that.
What's the effects of alcohol? What is the effects of alcohol on your body? Like drinking alcohol.
So yeah. So so the one thing that is not bad, a couple glasses of wine, especially red wine, comes from grapes. The skin of grapes has resveratrol in it. It's very good for your body, very good for your immune system. So resveratrol is good, but your harder liquors, anything from Hennessy to Grey Goose to whatever, have high sugar content. So if you are watching your weight, if you are going through a period of time to get yourself in shape, you don't want to have anything other than a glass or two of red wine.
Okay.
That's actually not to mention what it does to your liver. It compromises, the liver, and the liver is the filtration system that we spoke of. You want that filter to be clear and clean. So the harder alcohols impede that in our system. And we want to be optimally well.
Okay, perfect. Do we have any other questions or comments? I'm checking through all the screens.
I had a real quick one, if I may.
Sure.
Yeah, Joe.
You mentioned about the liver being the filtration system. Is there a way to, I mean, I know in college I've definitely I've done a lot to the liver, college drinking and things like that. Is there a way to restore that, or is it irreversible?
No, actually, I don't even like to deal with things that are like, irreversible, because I've seen so many things be reversed, and I've known people who have reversed things when they were told, even from all kinds of disease. When you start with your dark greens, we said mustard greens were the best, followed by kale, followed by collard greens, right? We don't want to drench them in sodium. Once you start putting that live food into your system, your system will respond. Now we're back to the analogy of the Band-Aid when you get the cut. So all you have to do is help that. So as you hydrate with water, it will help break down and pass anything that's been collected or clogged in the pancreas or in the liver. As you continue with good whole foods like we discussed, then you're going to be okay.
Got it. Now, Joy had a question. I'm not sure if it was answered.
I saw
Joy actually
Elsa. also put something up. Did you see that? Or
Yeah,
I think she's recommending something.
Yeah, Joy was actually, Elsa was actually answering Joy's question, I believe.
Oh, okay, good, good.
She was asking what can you use in lieu of store-bought deodorant, and Elsa wrote, natural deodorants are available like Native, Smarty Pits, and Tom's of Maine, available at Amazon. They're also at Whole Foods. Joy, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. And I had another question.
Sure.
Water.
Yes.
So when I moved here to Charlotte, I noticed that the water here isn't really the greatest as far as like, there's a lot of, it doesn't taste as crisp and clean.
Yes.
And someone had told me that it's basically sewer water that's been through the filtration, and that's what we're drinking.
So this has been known in North Carolina and South Carolina. And actually there was like some leakage from the slaughterhouses that was going into drains, that was ending up in reservoirs, and Vice TV had done a feature on this. But so I would say either getting a really good filter and or your own water, or preferably I like alkaline based waters. Trader Joe's has an alkaline product. There's Himalaya is another brand, and Essentia is another ionized alkaline water. So those are very good. When you're ionizing the the molecules in your cell, that's very good for optimal health. Alkaline, that's absolutely something that we really didn't touch on too much, but it goes with the electric foods that we were talking about. You want your pH balance to be 7.4 and between 8.8 or even in the 9s, but when it goes below 7.4, then you reach a level of acidity in your body, and acidity is a breeding ground for all kinds of disease, right, and all kinds of discomfort. So those are some of the water, that's what I use for water, even myself, because I can run my glass under the faucet and just hold it up, and I can see like particles, floating around. So I don't take it from I don't take it from the tap. Himalaya, Essentia, and Trader Joe's has actually have Trader Joe's. It's just called alkaline water from Trader Joe's. Yeah, alkaline electrolyte water.
Okay, we can take 2 more questions. I have one from Shirley asking if you recommend bottled water.
So yeah, Shirley, that's kind of what we were just talking. Shirley Frost, how are you? Wow, I miss so many people. COVID is a mess, right? When COVID's over, I'm going to everybody's. If you hear a knock on the door, it's just going to be me. I'm coming over because, oh my gosh, separation from human beings is like, this is hard. This is the next best thing to kind of see folks face. But Shirley, also I have Essentia, which is ionized water. Okay, and it has a pH rating of 9.5. Himalayan water, you can order that as well. That's 8.8. And Trader Joe's alkaline electrolyte water is 9.5 pH balance as well. So those are the ones that I would recommend. And I hope you're doing well. It's just good to hear from you.
I have time for one more question if anyone has it. If anyone has a question or comment, I have time for one more.
Sure. Oh, go ahead. Sunny, go ahead.
I couldn't see who it was.
Yeah, well, mine is just more of a comment because
Sunny.
in what, like 30-something years?
Oh my goodness! Remember the Prince 1999 album?
Yeah, man. Right. So both my wife and I went to high school with Kyle. So
how is Janice?
She's doing great, man. We're stepping our toes into the plant-based
Good.
meals, so it's working out. She's really enjoying cooking things and learning. So we'll be reaching out to you
Absolutely.
as we get dip further in.
Yes, absolutely do that.
Well,
All right.
Kyle's email address is actually in the chat. So if anyone needs it, you can check in the chat. It's I typed it in there.
Yep. Janice, good to see you.
Joy, you had one more question. I think we can take the last one.
Yes. Do you have plans for weight loss, but do you have plans for like muscle building?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can get in touch with me, as I said before, or through JB, through James. And and it's just a matter of building the muscle through the right balance of proteins, carbohydrates, and good fats. So if you want to get to that lean stage, it's burning off that subcutaneous fat, which is the fat that's underneath the skin, because we all have the musculature underneath any existing fat, right? Like people say, oh, I want to get a six-pack. I'm like, you already have it. You know, you're anatomically correct. You already have it. You just have to remove the excess fat that may be surrounding it. Remember, this is like representing 1 pound of fat. That's just one. So I like people to get a visual so they can think of, well, you know, when they say, oh man, I need to drop 8. One other thing, why this is really so important, why I use it, I have it as a prop, is because it has now been documented that once you are over 5 pounds of excess weight, it's considered an invasive organism. Why is that important? Think about any invasive organism, cysts, boils, tumors. They now put excess fat right along with that because it throws off the molecular structure of your body. Okay.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, Kyle, thank you so much.
Thank you, JB. I really had a great time and saw so many people and met some new people. Yes, honey. This was really, really good. And I'm glad people came you had great questions. And there's nothing more important than your health. So I'm glad folks came with their questions, and feel free to reach out. And we'll be doing this again at some point in time, right, JB?
8 weeks. 8 weeks. We'll be checking in so that I can find it out.
Before 8 weeks.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, before that.
Yes, before 8 weeks.
I'm going to try to have you back on in 8 weeks.
We got to check in.
Yes, yeah.
Definitely. I'm going to try.
I meant for another.
I'll miss you.
No, I miss you
I'll
too.
have Kyle back on the show in 8 weeks.
Right. I meant for another show. But anyone, we can all chat in the meantime, in the between time.
Yeah. Now I have my contact information for the show because I can see there are a few first-time viewers on the show.
Yeah.
So as I've said earlier, we're actually on episode 9. If you check in the chat, you can email
And congratulations with that, JB.
Thank you.
I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
Good luck, JB.
Thank you. So if you ever wanted to reach out to me, you can reach me at falltorisepod@gmail.com. It's in the chat, or you can go to our YouTube channel, which is Fall to Rise Podcast. And, you know, we've had some very, very interesting episodes. We've covered a lot of things that people don't necessarily talk about. We talked about mental health in the urban community,
important
financial planning. We've spoken about navigating the criminal justice system with a former prosecutor and defense attorney.
Right.
We've talked about surviving the criminal justice system and what it can actually do to you. We had an episode on daddy issues and how they affect men. And we had it from the aspect of someone who was affected by daddy issues and from the aspect of someone whose children have daddy issues because of him.
Yeah, that was a really, really good episode. And Derek, kind of shared and exposed a lot of really good things. I really like the content.
Thank you. So feel free, go to the YouTube channel, tell your friends, please subscribe. There's a what I call my hidden episode. There's one that I filmed a few weeks ago that's coming back out. It's about racial identity called Am I Black Enough? So that one's coming. That one's going to be on the YouTube channel. So please feel free, subscribe to the YouTube channel, watch the videos, shoot me an email. I love feedback. If there's ever an episode that you want me to cover, if there's a subject that you want me to tackle, there's no subject that's too big. Just to give you an idea of what's coming up, pedophilia is coming up. We're going to talk about pedophilia. We're going to talk about surviving after losing a loved one. My guest for that show lost his 7-year-old son. His 7-year-old son was murdered.
Oh my God.
By his mother, by his son's mother's new boyfriend. He was beaten to death with a pipe.
Oh
So
God.
we're going to talk about, believe it or not, he was supposed to be on next week's episode. But he's going in for treatment to deal with it, but he's going to be on the show. So hopefully his story can help others. We're going to have episodes about dealing with losing a spouse, because some people may not know how to handle that. We have a lot of things coming up. We have a lot of subjects.
It's good
subject that's
content.
too big.
Good content, JB.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
thanks for putting it on.
Thank you.
Can I
Thank you.
suggest something?
Sure.
How about being white during Black Lives Matter and how best to navigate that?
Excellent.
And support, my community, people I love, Kyle.
Sure.
I've
Yeah,
known
sure.
since I was way too many years. We're lying.
A
We're
long-
lying.
a long, long
It's
time.
not how long we've known
A long,
each other.
long time. And
A
you know what?
Long time. So
And
how
I
about
don't-
that?
I don't want to commandeer this, but when that show comes up, please have Nancy present,
Yes. Yes.
because Nancy really quickly, we worked together. It was a situation that happened where something went missing. I'll never forget this for the rest of my life. It was my first week there. And Nancy said, if I were Kyle, being the only African-American male present at this meeting, I would feel like everybody was already thinking it was me. And she was so right. I was about to walk out, not because I stole anything, but because I felt everyone is thinking I stole it, so I may as well leave anyway. And her saying that made me stay. And from there, I formed all these friendships and so on and so forth. But make sure Nancy is there for that.
She's outside because I put the camera on her. She ran, but I will tell her that.
No, just tell her that.
I
Never,
can get her on camera.
I'll never forget that experience.
I would love to do a show like that. You, maybe
Yeah.
Stephanie, Nancy.
Absolutely.
I mean, Natalie. I mean, anybody that we can get to talk about, the early 1990s and how it was for all of us as kids. And now here we are, right?
Yes.
Here we are. I love you.
I love
and
you too. I
I'm
love you.
watching you, and I love you. And, you're like my best when we were kids. I just love it. I just,
Thank you. Thank you, Tina. Thank you.
Well,
I love you and Nancy too. James, put that on the docket for a future show.
Definitely. And we'll definitely
put
be
it
in
on
contact.
the docket. I'm there.
We'll definitely be in contact. You do have my email address, which is falltorisepod@gmail.com. You can also reach me on YouTube. I'm always answering my phone, as with most millennials, which I think that I just made the cut for a millennial. We have our phones with us at all times. I think I made it by about a year. So technically I'm a millennial. So feel free to reach out to me, contact me. We're going to be in contact anyway, Tina, because we have this 8-week challenge that we're going to tackle, because the one thing that I hate more than gaining weight is losing money. So
the other thing is I have 2 teenage sons who would benefit a lot from understanding from they can see the news and they can hear me speak, but they don't hear it from the other side because we live in a rural New Jersey county. So it would be good for them to also partake in that, because they need to know.
Yes.
They need to know.
Yeah.
They need to understand. And there's no way for them to living where we live, although mom is always understand, but you can't understand until you can understand, right? So
sometimes you need that same message to come from a different frequency. Yep.
Definitely.
Exactly.
All right, we'll definitely be in touch. But thanks again, Kyle. You were amazing tonight.
Thank you. Great meeting people like Joy and TC, and seeing people like Tina and Marie and Sunny. So, and of course you, JB, who made it all possible. So thanks a lot. Keep on.
Thank you. Thank you for my guests for viewing, and thank you for those of you that weren't able to tie into this call live. Thank you for those. Thank you for those of you that are on YouTube, social media, other platforms. I really, really appreciate it. And don't be shy. Again, that falltorise@gmail.com email address is always active. I've always got access to it, and I usually reply to you very quickly. For James Brown and everyone that helped to make this show possible, thank you and good night.
James Brown, hardest working man on Facebook.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Kyle,
Good night.
blow you a kiss, or would you like to see my tonsils?